process in which the administration and working with county departments would come back to us and make recommendations that would yield, in effect, on an annualized basis, a 2% reduction in county appropriations. Now, since this would only go into effect on July 1, the overall reduction for the year would only be 1%. Now, the county budget is about $1 billion. 1% would amount to about $10 million. What our hope would be, Mr. President, is that by achieving these, what I think are modest reductions, and give staff and the administration, and then coming back to the legislature, plenty of time to work out the details, we presumably would yield savings of $10 million in the coming fiscal year. What that would mean is that as we approach the end of the year, we would not have to exercise the proposal to sell the payment in lieu of tax agreements, which in the budget is projected to generate $10 million next year, an equivalent sum. As Legislator O'Brien spoke to a few moments ago, we are very concerned about the use of one-shot revenues to balance the 2008 budget. Because, to use a phrase that Ross Perot invented, that great sucking sound we hear is the sound of money being pulled out of future years into the year 2009. The selling of the pilot agreements, we think, is a particularly spacious idea. No one in New York State has ever done this. When asked for examples from elsewhere in the country, and we asked a couple of different times, we were told that, oh yes, it's been done elsewhere, but no one was ever able to give us an example of any place where this was done. The financial markets are in chaos. The idea of launching some kind of a new financial vehicle, a securitization of pilots, and indeed anything that has the word securitization attached to it, is probably dead on arrival on Wall Street today. But the idea of launching in these particularly perilous times, with the financial markets in chaos, would appear to I and my colleagues on this side of the aisle to be particularly foolish. Particularly foolish. So we would hope desperately that we would not have to sell the pilot agreements. And the way to accomplish that is during the course of the year to generate $10 million of savings in the budget. We don't believe that that will be a particularly impossible thing to do. Will there be some pain? Yes. But these are extraordinary times, and a reduction on an annualized basis of 2% does not appear to us to be an unreasonable undertaking. So we respectfully and sincerely offer the amendment, not wanting to sit here and argue tonight about paper clips and fleet cars and all that stuff, but to initiate, to put into the budget a policy statement of the legislature, and a policy statement that would launch a process which should yield savings in the budget of $10 million, and then allow us to avoid having to sell the pilot agreements, which will merely, aside being a highly risky financial venture, will do nothing but suck $2.5 million out of future budgets for the next five years. Thank you, Mr. President.
As I'm sure everyone noticed, we have been in consultation over this amendment. It's an amendment that I find very interesting. Maybe some people find that to be surprising, but I like this idea conceptually. I think that we should be working together to find ways to reduce spending in this very way. Our concern about this, or my concern about this, that I do not quite honestly understand yet, is whether this is permissible under our charter, whether it's permissible for us to do this. I'm not suggesting that there isn't a mechanism by which we could accomplish the same thing, but it's not clear to us at this point whether this is permissible under the charter. But let me reiterate, conceptually, I do not have a problem with this. I know that the budget team has worked diligently with managers and departments all over the county to accomplish this. But we could always do better, and we could always be doing it together. My question is to you, Mr. President, to whoever in the administration, is this amendment permissible under the charter? Again, with the proviso that conceptually, I don't find it offensive.
Through the President, having just seen the proposed amendment a few moments ago, and thinking about it in a few moments legislative speaking, my opinion would be that in its present form it's not proper. That it is something that would be more appropriate in the form of a charter amendment, which would be subject to a permissive and not mandatory referendum. As this body has made similar amendments in the past that have been by local law. I've had public hearings on them, and perhaps
Again, conceptually, I'm not having any problem with the idea of working in a bipartisan way to examine the costs that we have here in the council. And I would commit myself to working together with the minority caucus to find a way to make this happen.
Yeah. Through the President, I'm sorry to hold my finger up to you, but another thought, if I may, is that really from a philosophical standpoint and for charter, another reason why such an amendment is proper at the present time is because the legislator's power to amend the budget is it's limited in the ways that you can do it, and inserting policy statements is not something that's covered by the charter. So that's another reason why this particular amendment at this present time, in my opinion, would be out of order.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with all due respect to the learned council, the charter specifically states that this legislative body is the policy-setting legislative branch of government. And it's entirely appropriate for us to set policies within which the administration has to function. And the reduction of a budget, our primary responsibility as legislators, more fundamental than anything else, is the review and analysis of this budget document. And as the policy-setting arm of this body, it's entirely appropriate for us to give that kind of guidance to the administration. What we're calling for is a slight reduction in the amount of monies that the administration has to operate within, and because we are the policy-setting arm of government, it's entirely appropriate that we take this amendment up now.
I would agree with you that it is a responsibility of the legislature to set policy. That's not the question. The question before us is whether or not this is the right mechanism that allows us to do that. And I question it also, whether or not we can use the budget as a vehicle to bypass our charter process for establishing something like this. So to that end, although I agree with both of you on this, I think it's something that we need to be working on, and I would encourage both of us to get together with the bipartisan budget group to do this. But I'm going to rule it out of order.
Appeal the ruling of the President, and do we have a vote on that appeal?
Yes, we will.
Roll call, please.
Yes.